Collection for Latin America is very important in several levels. The first level is because the people need to be evangelized, and there are programs of evangelization to which we sponsor. Dioceses present different projects, seminaries present needs that they need, and we try to respond. So it's important at that level, the level of evangelization that is needed. But it's important for us, we must not forget that. It's important for us to be in communion with those that are our brothers and sisters and need to evangelize. So it's important for the church in the United States to share that faith that we have with one another and to be in communion with them. And the church in America is not the priest, it's not the bishop, it's the people of God. And every time that a donation is made through the parishes, is the parishioner, the one sitting in the pew, that sees its work, its responsibility with the church in those who are needed, with those who are needed. And that's why it's important. It's important for the person in the pew to be united too. You know, not everybody can go, as I do, to different parts of Latin America, but they help us to bring the Word of God throughout Latin America. And it's not only the Word of God. We also are involved in different activities. Collections are made when an earthquake, when a hurricane comes, and we have distributed those monies to reconstruct, to help the churches so they can carry on the mission of bringing Christ to the world. The need is everywhere because we all need to hear the Word of God. But the main need is that we have teachers. We have people who know the Word. And I was, last year, I was in Chalatenango in San Salvador. And there I went to a program that the bishop has where he had, I forget how many were in the room, 30 people perhaps, but they were all trained catechists. They were all trained to go into different communities and bring the word of Christ. You know, our Holy Father Francis have spoken about in favor of the catechists now, you know, to make catechism a ministry in the church. Well, you know, these people have a start because they've been trained and it keeps on going to spread the word of God, to spread the gospel that is so much needed. That is what's going to bring peace. That is what's going to bring understanding and justice to the world. Nothing else. Oh, my favorite saint, of course, is Venerable Felix Varela, who is not a saint. We're waiting for a miracle so that Rome can declare him in the line of sainthood. But who is Felix Varela? A priest who 200 years ago, December 1823, arrived to New York, exiled from his country, Cuba. Why? Because he was representative in Spain for the freedom of the colonies, for justice, for the slaves, to end the slavery. All this, he was declared persona non grata. He was declared, he was to be eliminated. He was to be killed because he was enemy of the crown. And so he came to the United States, 1823, 200 years ago. And his whole life was preaching the gospel to the immigrants, helping them, visiting hospitals, creating schools so that the children go to school and the mothers would have good employment. like he had sewing, teaching different, instead of going into prostitution on the streets. It was a time that it was great discrimination for the Irish. The interesting thing is, Felix Varela, 200 years ago, his work with the immigrants was with the poor Irish of the city of New York. There were also from other countries, Italy, Germany, but basically from the Irish. He went in and out of hospitals. This was difficult times because of the plagues that were besieging the people. He gave everything that he had for the poor. He died in total poverty in St. Augustine, Florida. He went down there because of his health, and there he died. Felix Varela, a great apostle for the Irish immigrants in New York. Oh, about the Eucharist, we can say a lot of things, but one word I would say is presence. The presence of God in our midst. The Eucharist allows us to visually see that Christ is present in our midst. He said it by words. Whenever 2 or 3 are gathered, I am in their midst. I am present in their midst. But when we have the Eucharist, we know that he said, this is my body, this is my blood. And if I may give you an anecdote of what presence means. When I was a newly ordained priest, just out of the seminary, and in the parish I had to go and say a few prayers at a wake in a funeral parlor. And I was so nervous. I didn't know what to say. And I said to a religious sister at the time, sister of St. Joseph, I said, I'm so nervous. I don't know what I'm going to say. Can you tell me, help me? And she said, you don't have to say anything. Just go, and it's your presence they want. And I realized how true that was. When I got to the funeral parlor, to that wake, with people that were so taken by the separation, with such pain, it wasn't the words that I was saying. They weren't even listening to that. They were looking at my presence, and my presence spoke of God. God is present with them. And the Eucharist is par excellence, God's presence with us.